some audio issues, and so he dropped off. He's coming back on.
So who's going to go by their last name? Is it going to be Roy, or is it going to be...
Right.
I can go by Roy. That's easy for me.
I kind of like King, though. Hey, the King! What does the King think? Yeah.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Jesse, can you hear us now? Can you nod if you can hear us?
Is my audio any better now?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah, I can hear you, Sean. You're just quiet. It's fine. It's a nice change of approach.
What are you saying? That I'm loud? And
I like the anonymous poster in the background. That's fantastic.
Oh no, that's a flag.
Yes. I didn't realize they have a flag. That's fantastic.
So I'm not sure if Jesse can hear us. He was having some audio issues.
Jesse, can you hear us? Yeah, I don't see Jesse's video.
Was he the one that said he was going to be textually available only? Because he was at work?
Yeah, he said he may have to walk away from his desk.
Oh, okay. No worries.
So it's nice to meet you face-to-face, Sean King, by the way.
My pleasure, guys. Sorry I couldn't be at the meeting.
Well, understood. It's a little bit of a drive. Are you ever in Nashville, by the way? I mean, is there any reason that you ever make it this way?
Yeah, I get over there a decent amount. I'm not sure when my next trip is scheduled for. I think it'll be probably October the 1st, but I get over there some.
Okay, great. 'Cause next time you're in the area, hopefully we can do something. And my wife and I were talking, and we were hoping that as we move forward as an interim board, that at some point in the next couple months we can have like a small barbecue over here. You guys all bring your families and get to know each other a little bit better on a personal level. Because these meetings, we'll have some, conversation and personal stuff, but I'm sure it'll get tedious and business-like before too long. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a chat with Jesse, and I was chatting with you guys last night too. I was thinking, like, for us to be effective and actually get anything done, there's going to have to be a level of trust there. And early on, whatever course corrections we can make as far as our interactions, I think it's going to pay a lot of dividends in the future. As John, you've mentioned numerous times, other states may end up emulating what we're doing, which is kind of crazy to even consider, but it's a reality because there's not a lot of people doing this kind of stuff, and so I want to make sure that we could get to a point, hopefully, of trust within each other, and so that we can represent something other people are going to be proud to follow, and also, again, so we can be effective for Tennessee.
Definitely. Totally agree. So, Sean King, since we all know each other to some extent, we don't know you very well. Would you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you?
Yeah, glad to. So, I'm pretty much a Tennessee boy through and through. I've been here since I was 5 years old anyway, so they claim me at this point. I grew up in Knoxville, went to Farragut High School, big school out west, and then UT Knoxville. Studied accounting undergrad and got my master's in accounting, and then went on to law school. Have worked really pretty much my whole career in financial services. So though I'm a lawyer and a CPA, I'm fairly experienced in those areas, but I don't really practice in those areas. What we really do is help companies set up and operate 401k plans primarily, and also captive insurance companies. So we work with a lot of closely held family type of businesses. And it was through my investment consulting group that I learned, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago about Bitcoin in a newsletter from Robert Prechter in the Gainesville, Georgia area, and started researching it, and just kind of like everybody else, I mean, it's a rabbit hole. Once you start playing around with it and researching it, it just begins to take over your mind, and you begin to think in new ways. So
yeah,
it's been a little while doing that, and was fortunate enough fairly early on to put a little bit of money into some Bitcoin that's now worth quite a bit more than just a little bit of money. So for those reasons, and just for pure personal fascination, I'm thrilled to help Bitcoin grow however I can.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we were just chatting last night. Sean and I get to hang out with the Bitcoin car at Flight Nashville. It's a restaurant here that accepts Bitcoin. And one of the things that I was talking about is with John, and a little bit with Sean too, is like I think it would be cool to clarify our own personal, like, selfish ambitions towards Bitcoin, because I think that it would be obvious that we are going to have them, and I think some of the criticisms of the Bitcoin Foundation is that they do things in private and they're, very, that kind of thing, where we want to do things in open. And I think that relates even to our own personal, like, prejudices. Like, we're gonna approach different decisions or different things that we want to do with our own interest in mind. I mean, it's just human nature. I think it'd be good early on to say, hey, this is kind of what I'm in this for. And then just know right away, okay, well, that's it. And if there's a conflict there in the future, we'll at least know about it, and it's up front and it's obvious. And there's times when, we may have to do things in the interest of the community that may not be our own personal interests. And, those are going to be tough times, and we'll obviously work through those and talk through them. But it was just something I was realizing, that the less we have to, like, kind of couch our words or be political or whatever within our group or even within our community, I think the more effective we're going to be, and the more trust that we can gain, and people are going to say, hey, these guys are genuinely care about this community. They're open and honest about their own kind of desires and wants, but really it is about cryptocurrency. It's about Bitcoin. It's about promoting something that we believe is going to make ultimately the world a better place. And for us personally and our families as well. So I don't know. I mean, that's just something I was thinking would be kind of cool. Jesse's brought up in the past as well, clarifying our vision and values. Like, what do we believe as an organization, and what are we going to try to accomplish? And that's going to be a huge task, but I think it's an important one. There's a great TED Talk, if you haven't seen it already, from Simon Sinek called "How Great Leaders Inspire Action," and he talks about starting with why. It's actually one of the most popular TED Talks out there, and it's really, really good. And it might be good for us to watch it together as a team or whatever, and just think through what is our why as an organization. There's going to be a whole lot of what as far as different strategies and tactics, but the why, I believe, is really the powerful thing. That his quote is that people don't follow what you do; they follow why you do it. So anyway, that's just my thoughts. And I was also hoping this could be, again, an informal one just to get to know each other. So thanks, Sean King, for giving us a little backstory. Do you think we should all go through and give a little backstory? Does that make sense?
That's a good idea.
I guess since I'm talking, I'll go ahead. I'm originally from Southern California. Moved here in 2006, I think, and I've been since 2005, 2006, actually officially 2007, I started a company called FoxyCart. It's an e-commerce shopping cart system. I went to the University of Pennsylvania and majored in computer science, so I've got a background in the tech stuff, and I've been involved in the commerce side of things with FoxyCart, and heard about Bitcoin years ago, kind of thought it was some silly internet money, and in reference to Sean's flag, I remember getting interested a little bit in Anonymous, going, wow, these guys are kind of amazing. They're trying to make the world a better place in their own unique way. And I was like, what is this weird squiggly line of characters in their Twitter handle? And I was like, oh, that's that Bitcoin thing. And this was early last year. So I started diving in and got stuck in the rabbit hole and spent days on bitcointalk.org. I mean, literally, you can look at my account and it's like, you've been online for 4 days. And so I just really got into it and bought my first Bitcoin in February when it was like $20, and just got my team on board, got my business partner on board. We started accepting Bitcoin via BitPay for FoxyCart in April of 2013, and we've just been doing everything we can to promote it. In January, I was like, man, I just need to start a group, because I know there's people in Nashville that are interested in that, so that's where the meetup group started. I connected with John online. Jesse actually messaged me on Facebook 6 months prior to that, and he went to my people you don't know folder. So I never actually got to connect with Jesse until after the group was already getting going. And then Sean, we just recently got to know Sean in the last month, actually. He showed up at the last meeting for the larger Bitcoin meetup, and then it's been awesome to see all things that are going after that. So that's my brief and amazing story. I've got 3 kids and a beautiful wife, and yeah, that's my story. I work from home, as you can see, and enjoy that very much.
Cool. I guess, Sean Roy, do you want to go next?
Oh, I suppose if I have to. Let's see. I'm from California. I was born and raised there, and I lived in the mountains. So when they talk about mountain men, I was the real deal. That's how I grew up. And we had, my father kind of instilled in me a very libertarian bend as far as my personality goes. I'm a very government hands-off kind of approach kind of guy. And that being said, I served the United States Army in the Special Forces for 8 years. And when I got out, I decided to go into business for myself, so that way I never had to do what I was told ever again. And so I started a chain of retail stores, several other businesses. I can't even count them. I've lost track over the years. And now I primarily focus on my consulting firm. I build technology, networks, engineering, and I got into Bitcoin because it fits everything that I believe in. And I say believe in, I mean, by and large, it fits everything that I believe in. So it's a very natural fit for me. I think that Bitcoin has the potential to completely undermine the traditional banking system and the machine that causes war and lets governments exploit people. So I'm here to make sure that I'm putting forth every bit of effort that I can in order to fulfill that mission. I guess that's about it.
I second everything you just said, except I didn't serve in the military, but I have the same kind of bent towards what Bitcoin could do.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I'll go now. I first started. So I majored in economics in college, and so that's how I was studying finance, debt, and all that kind of stuff. And I ran across was like some friend. I wish I knew who. At this point, I don't. In 2011, early 2011, some friend posted something on Bitcoin, and for whatever reason, the article tied back to my research, and so I started reading. I was very fascinated with it, and started studying it. And that was what I did. Was just for weeks, every spare moment I had, I would just start studying and reading up on Bitcoin. At that point, there wasn't a whole lot of great material, so forum posts, wiki posts, you name it, video here and there. And I'd always call my roommate in and be like, my name's John, but his is as well. So I'd call John in and and say, oh my gosh, like Bitcoin's the coolest thing because of this, this, and this, and he'd always come back with, well, what about, how is it scarce? How does that exactly work? Or he'd come back with a question, and I was like, I don't know. So through that converse back and forth, pushed me to learn a whole lot about Bitcoin in a very short amount of time. So I first invested in Bitcoin when it was at about $6 each. I'm a very cautious, or just over $6. It was just less than $7, but I'm a very cautious investor by nature, and so I invested only $200. In hindsight's 2020. Yeah, and so then I sold a lot of that at the all-time high of 123. And bought silver with that. I never sold all of my Bitcoin, so I've owned Bitcoin since early 2011. Been involved with that. I was involved with the Ludwig von Mises Institute for a long time as far as studying Austrian economics. And then myself and a group of my peers all kind of got really into Bitcoin. We didn't quite sever our ties from the Mises Institute, but definitely just sort of abandoned that, walked away, and started focusing on pretty much anything Bitcoin we could do. So a friend of mine co-founded, and he's now the president of the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute. Another friend works for BitPay. Another friend works for Monero. We just kind of like split off and all went our different ways. So, and then like Luke mentioned, we connected online. We both given a presentation on Bitcoin locally around the same time, and I think he ran across like a Twitter post where I shared like my slides. And so we connected and said, you know what, we really need to have a meetup in this area. We started the meetup hoping we'd get like 5 people, and first meeting it was, Luke, do you remember, was it like 23 people I think at the first meeting or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so it was like, a little over 20 people at the very first meeting, and since then it's just, and that was in October, so it's gone, what was it, October, November, but either way, it's gone pretty,
I think we started like officially the beginning of the year. I think was our first meeting January, or I think we talked about. Did we actually meet last year?
Yeah, the first meeting at that restaurant was in November, I think.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that was kind of our first. Hey, let's just get a bunch of people together and have lunch, and
I think we
the cover photo on our Twitter handle.
yeah, exactly. And I think we may have met once in December at Emma before, but either way, yeah, we really picked up at the beginning of this year, and it's just been great success since then. A lot of people with a lot of different talents, really excited about this. So I'm a lifetime member of the Bitcoin Foundation, and I've been somewhat involved there, member of the education committee and such. But I've seen a lot of opportunity as a lot of things have kind of fallen in our lap as far as relationships with senators and regulators and others who are asking questions about Bitcoin in Tennessee, and other businesses and such. They're doing so. And I think we could. I mean, that was kind of my initial thought. Was also we had a lot of people in the group that were saying, "Hey, we want our own Bitcoin center. We want to host our own events and stuff like that." It's kind of overwhelming. So, hence the Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance's birth. That seemed to intersect all of those things as far as us saying, okay, well, let's promote and protect Bitcoin and really focus on the state level. Because I think a lot of these existing organizations are a little broad-reaching. I mean, like the Bitcoin Foundation it's all over the U.S. or it's global, depending upon your perspective. And even if they do have a measured level of success, it's going to be distributed across a vast geography, so it's difficult to measure. So focusing on the state, where we already have a lot of people in our state who are very passionate about this subject, then I think that we can make a big difference. So as far as Luke mentioned, being completely transparent about like personal interests and all that, I'm somewhat of an aspiring writer and speaker and such. I've given a number of Bitcoin workshops and things like that, written a number of blog posts on Bitcoin, and I just submitted a book proposal on Bitcoin to a publisher. So we'll see. Haven't heard back from them yet, but they're interested. Other than them to say they're interested, but they need to review it. So I'd like to continue to build my personal platform, in addition to furthering Bitcoin in the state and creating a safe haven of sorts for the Bitcoin industry in Tennessee. I'd also like to further my own personal platform, more opportunities to build my writing and speaking capabilities, and really gravitate towards doing that more full time. Right now, I do work for a nonprofit campus ministry organization, and this is all sort of my side gig, you could say. But I also do have an LLC, Bitcoin 101 HQ. So as we move forward, the Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance will be a nonprofit foundation, but I also have my own little business entity so that we can distinguish, what falls under the Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance, what falls under personal projects, and move forward in that direction. So that's the perspective I come from. I live in Murfreesboro, just outside of Nashville. My wife and I have been married for 7 months now, so relatively newlywed. We both are really excited about Bitcoin. So that's me. And Jesse, I think I can call Jesse in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can dial someone in via phone.
Yeah. I just don't know if he's available.
Can you? I'm not.
Hey, there you go.
I don't know.
We can hear you.
Now.
Yeah, we can hear you great, Jesse.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
If I open the app, it goes into dying robot. So I'm just looking at my locked screen and assuming this is working. So.
Weird. Yeah. No, we can hear you great.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
So I think last fall I started the Nashville Bitcoin Network as a way to meet up with people and talk about what the implications of the technology were, where it was going, and what we could do is sort of like a hacker group or hacker collective, and to promote for businesses. And so had a little bit of success with the business directory and just in meeting other people who were interested, like John and Luke. And since then, it's kind of blown up around me. I haven't really felt like I needed to actively do what I thought I was going to start out to do, because it's just, I like the rising tide has kind of lifted everything. It's made national news. Price has gone up extremely high, and then come back down. So it's not like I felt like I need to inform anybody about it anymore, other than people who are just trying to understand. Who haven't taken the time. Other than that, I'm working in projects like the Satoshi Soda / Crypto Cola machine, and some other like pet projects that I've got ideas for. And personally, that's kind of what I'm interested in. If this is a new technology, I'd like to figure out how I can participate in it, if it's going to be around as like a fun way to start a business or an entrepreneurial enterprise. I do recognize that if we start a 501c3 that's based on education, that everyone's going to have access to businesses and people who are looking to be involved with us. So, and that's just kind of being objective. So that's an interesting way to participate in the 501c3. But really, I think my heart is just trying to figure out how to be an entrepreneur in this space and how to do my own thing. And so that's what I'm motivated for.
Great.
Cool. I just realized I asked all you guys to do that, and I didn't really do that myself. As far as my motivations, I think they're similar to Sean Roy's. As far as like, I started learning about central banking system and how fiat currencies actually work, and just learning some Austrian economics and different things like that. And so I do think that there's a potential for Bitcoin to be very disruptive as far as like the 1971 Nixon shock is something I like to look at as an example to say, well, they wanted to keep doing more war in Vietnam, and the limitation of gold-backed currencies kind of prevented them, so now they just kind of print whatever. And so it's just from that standpoint, I think about what would it look like if individuals controlled their own store of value and didn't have to rely on any kind of central authority, and didn't have banks and governments working together to profit themselves at the expense of other people. So that is my, I already have a business that provides for my family, and I don't look at Bitcoin as being something that is going to be like a business for me, but I'm definitely open to to that as well. It's something I'm super passionate about, and if I could actually get compensated for the efforts, that would be really cool. But I just want to see Bitcoin take off, and I'd love to see people paying FoxyCart in Bitcoin and using FoxyCart to have Bitcoin as a payment method on their online stores and all that. So that's kind of my connection to Bitcoin. Sell stuff online. I already have a service for that, and hey, they could just check a button, set up a BitPay account, and be up and running.
Yeah, I second that, Luke.
Yeah, definitely. Sean King, I know you gave us a little bit of introduction on yourself, but do you want to add anything in light of our introductions as far as tying that back into Bitcoin?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I share the general libertarian viewpoint and bent, as anybody who may have read any my stuff would probably readily be able to tell. And that's a little unusual for somebody who is as in establishment as I am, but I very much recognize the shortcomings, the limitations, and even the outright corruption that exists in a lot of the establishment. So I share that. I guess I want us to think about the extent to which we want to politicize versus depoliticize the alliance. I think that's an important initial sort of consideration that
Definitely.
we need to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Secondly, on the education piece, one of the things, the projects that I'm working on and kind of my spare time, continuing education, I'm developing a continuing education, all basically an 8-hour on Bitcoin for CPAs. CPAs have to have 40 hours a year in Tennessee and in most other states of continuing education credit. There's a lot of interest right now in Bitcoin, but other than going to a forum and spending 4 days straight, as you guys did, it's very hard for a professional, a lawyer, a CPA who just wants to get their mind around the concept to be able to do so today. So I'm interested in creating an education piece. I'm in the middle of that now. I don't know if it would be appropriate to do that under the Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance. I could see how providing that sort of education to the community would help with the branding of the organization and would help with its exposure, which I would be happy to do. But I would also be happy to just keep that completely separate from the alliance and do that on my own. So I guess that's all I've got at the moment.
That's really fascinating. And just a quick note on that whatever umbrella that ends up being under, I'm sure Peacock Financial will be very interested in that. They're the accounting firm. Sean Roy knows them a little better than I do, but they they just came on to accept Bitcoin. They're based out of Nashville, and they're also looking to specialize in being an accounting firm specifically for advising startups, new technology, and incorporating Bitcoin into that. And they're now essentially the firm that's partnering with us as the Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance to handle most of our filing and paperwork for next to no cost. So,
Sean, I think that's awesome. I have some friends that are CPAs, and I remember having lunch with one last year, and he was going to this conference, and he showed me the outline for the conference and how all these different pieces fulfilled that continuous education requirement, and I was just so frustrated that as I'm looking through this, these are people that are supposed to understand money, and their whole basis is supposed to be about money, and not a single one of the descriptions of the course actually talked about what money is. And I was just kind of beside myself, these are professionals that their whole help people they don't get it. And even my friend, as I'm sharing some of these things with him about Bitcoin and about the nature of currency that I come to understand, he's like, wow, yeah, these are some interesting ideas I've heard something about this, but so I think that would be fantastic. Whether or not that's underneath our umbrella or it's your separate thing, it's definitely something I would love for us to support. I think that'll be an interesting thing as we go forward to figure out, and that's kind of relates to us having our own personal desires and things we want to accomplish. When something becomes profitable and there's money there, it may be a little interesting to decide, okay, wait a minute, is that my own thing that I get to enjoy those profits, or is that something we're doing for the benefit of the community, and I would not have been able to do it without the support of the umbrella and the community and everything. So those are things we'll have to figure out as we go forward. I think Sean, Roy, and I are in an interesting position that we don't necessarily need to adjust what we're doing as far as our providing for our families, but obviously we would want to if the opportunity comes up, and we're not going to turn that down. But I think from what I'm hearing, it sounds like Jesse, John, and Sean King, you guys are looking for opportunities to actually move a portion of your income in business to being Bitcoin related, whether that's products and services or anything. And that's not a problem. I think that's fine. I just think it would be good to know that and think about it as we come up to things in the future. Obviously, when you introduce money into something, it gets more complicated. So those are just my thoughts I had.
If we're talking about money and monetization of our quote unquote products, and touching back on Sean's education project, my personal opinion is that it would make perfect sense for it to be a plug-in or a section of the Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance, because our education quote unquote division, our action teams, that's exactly what they're designed to do. In this particular case, it's tailored to a CPA, which is perfect, and it could also be modified and tailored to anybody else for that matter with relative ease. But going back to monetization, there are, I don't even know, I'd have to count them, but I'm going to say at least probably a dozen different projects right now where we have a potential for good profits, decent profits that would be able to drive this foundation, this nonprofit to a paying status relatively quickly. I think that within a year's period of time, being able to ramp up the things that we're doing. I mean, where there's 5 of us here right now, but we represent probably close to 50 active personnel right now, and those people all have ideas and all have projects and all have things that we can use and distribute that are tools at our disposal. So there's a lot of potential for some good monetization.
It's kind of an uncomfortable topic, but I'm glad we're broaching it because I mean it definitely. I think like you were saying, Luke, what our issues are important to be there. I think to be an open, especially now at the Genesis, while we're trying to decide how we move forward and what direction to go. But that being said, I'm also not interested in using this as a vehicle to entrepreneurship. It's just a great way to network with people and anticipate trends, in the space and how it really is going to be important to help people.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting, I think, tightrope to walk in that, obviously as we get more people on board, there's going to be this huge community of people that may want the products or services that we're working on individually. And just like you said, Sean, there's a huge benefit to bringing those products underneath the umbrella to then provide more value to people who want to be members and paying members of the organization. But, Sean King, I directly understand that if you're putting in all this effort to do an 8-hour course, and it's a tremendous amount of effort, that's your effort, and so it'd be interesting to see how we would structure things where it's like the organization would pay you or something like that, and so for the next X years of you would all get the benefit of that. I don't know. I don't know how we'll structure things, but I think it's important to think through because very early on, as we start doing things that actually do provide great value, there could be some conflict where it's like, hey, this is kind of my thing, and I don't want you guys to like steal it, and just like. Now it's you're all benefiting from the thing I'm working on, and I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being a little too pessimistic, but I do think it's something that could easily come up. And as long as we're all open again with each other, and we can build that trust to say, hey guys, I'm doing this, and I'd like this portion of it to kind of be my thing, but this portion of it I want to give up to the community. Maybe that's an approach we can take. I don't know. I mean, John, you kind of already have an example of that, where you have your own LLC, your own platform you're building for yourself, and you're upfront about that. I think that's a pretty good approach. Just because it's clear, and so now we know, and we're not going to be confused if there's something that you're doing that isn't related necessarily directly with the organization, and then what you'd be doing that is part of the organization. I mean, do you guys have experience with that kind of thing? You're part of a group, so may have a conflict of interest? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the key thing about conflicts of interest is just that they're disclosed. I don't think we can avoid the conflicts, but I do think we can all be very transparent when it's time to make decisions. We're going to make them in line or anybody else, but rather try to make them in a way that it's beneficial for everybody. My thinking on the education, and we can do the same thing for lawyers, by the way. I think the same. My thinking that I would create this course, and probably if you guys wanted to go that route, would probably donate it to the Alliance, and let the Alliance collect all the revenue, and perhaps just pay me some sort of a percentage of that revenue as a licensing fee for having licensed the course or something to the Alliance. But what that would do for the Alliance is get a lot of exposure among CPAs and attorneys potentially over time, build its credibility as a go-to source for Bitcoin-related education and those sort of things. What it would do for me is kind of the same thing in reverse. As the Alliance's credibility spreads, having the Alliance as being the source of that education that I'm providing would likewise extend the Alliance's credibility to that course, and indirectly to me as well. So
that's exactly how I understood it. That's when you started mentioning it, that's exactly what I envisioned. It makes perfect sense, and proportional distribution of funds is an easy thing to accomplish.
Yeah, and one thing to note there is that, like you said, conflicts of interest, they're inevitable. The key thing is disclosure. And we can take example from some groups that have handled things like that to say, okay, well, if there's specifically something that requires a vote, now this is a little different because it's your property. You choose essentially whether or not you want to donate to Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance, and that's all your choice. But when it comes up to other things within, if we need to vote on something that may reflect a conflict of interest on my platform or Sean's or Jesse's, then it's appropriate to excuse ourselves from that vote, for those of us that do have a conflict of interest. So I think that's something to be conscious of too, is to pay attention to that. When it gets just, even though I think each of us are mature enough that we can objectively approach a situation, definitely because of perception, reputation, and we want these decisions to be respected by the community, that if there is a conflict of interest and it is appropriate for us to excuse ourselves from the vote, then I would recommend that we do so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Great. So I would propose that we talk a little bit as a group about, we don't have a set agenda right now, but we talk a little bit about what exactly we'd like to accomplish between now and January. Sean King, just to give you a brief, it looks like you're frozen. Can you hear me? Sean King? Nope, we may have lost him.
I can, yeah. You're kind of lagging. I don't know if it's on my end or yours.
Okay.
I think it's on your end, Sean.
Yeah, because you were lagging when you were talking a minute ago. But if I keep speaking, can you hear me? Maybe.
Yeah, let me. I'm going to move to a different room, see if I can resolve this.
Okay, great. And just a heads up, guys, right now we have 4 viewers. So don't know who they are, but there are at least 4 people watching this video call right now. And because it will be recorded and posted on YouTube, I'm sure other people will watch it too.
Yeah, I think even before we get involved in like what do we want to accomplish by January, what are your thoughts of like defining our vision and values? I think that's something Jesse brought up, and it makes a lot of sense to me. Because what we want to accomplish again is the what, and as the Simon Sinek video talks about, is the why. And I'll email you guys this because I think it's really good. It's just like, what do we believe, and then will people want to follow what we believe?
That's really important. I think that you're right.
Jesse, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was going to ask for, I can't find links to the GitHub or the mind map.
Oh, those are good things to have.
Okay, the GitHub's just GitHub/BTC Nashville. We haven't changed it to Tennessee Bitcoin or anything yet. And I think what Sean Roy moved all the mind map stuff into our Google Apps TennesseeBitcoin.org domain. So if you log in with your your Jesse.Alvey at TennesseeBitcoin.org and Google Apps account, it's all should be there in Drive. Correct, Sean King?
Correct.
Roy. Sorry, this is really confusing.
If you can hear me, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Just log into your Google domain apps and check your Google Drive. Click on there's I think 3 mind maps in there right now. Just click on them and then launch it with MindMap.
You have to install MindMap as a Google Apps or a Google Drive app first.
And then add the collaboration extension.
Yeah, and I am taking some notes. Cool. By the way, at this point we don't have official titles or official secretary, but I've got a computer up, so I'm taking a few notes, and I'll share those in Google Drive as well.
That's good because I don't take notes.
Cool.
So, Luke, do you want to launch that conversation?
Yeah, this is a good reminder. I need to add this to my phone so I can check you. What's that?
What did you say, Luke? Sorry, you're breaking up.
Sorry, I might be lagging a little bit. I'm seeing some ping drops on my...
I can see you. And Sean King, you're back to clear image. That doesn't appear to be lagging.
Great.
And what I was going to say earlier, by the way, Sean, was just that because you were in our last meeting, just I guess the super short overview is that we talked a lot about what our mission would be, what our goal is and stuff like that, and what we're going to do. We haven't. The only thing we officially decided was that the 5 of us will serve as interim board members between now and January. That we will have an election for board members in January. Each of us are eligible to, at least potentially eligible to run for those positions. But our position right now, as it is only through January, so that we have that time to get the organization off the ground, to recruit membership, so that there are members to vote for board members in January. And we would have, and most likely what we'll do is we'll approach a freemium membership, where we have like a free membership level, that you get like the member newsletter and discounts on some things, stuff like that. Basically, anybody who signs up for our email list is a free Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance, free level or basic level Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance member. And then what we'd have after that would be paid membership levels. That includes things like voting rights and other benefits exclusive to other membership levels. So that's something we formalize, but that's what we talked about as the most likely avenue moving forward. After looking at a few different existing models, that's what the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada does, or at least a modified version of it. And they seem to have a good level of success there as far as recruiting people to, it's very easy to get someone into the free level and then just go from there. We also talked about how Jesse proposed a mission statement. I think it was blockchain technologies for a free and equitable society. So we didn't approve that. We didn't finalize that, but that was his suggestion, and that's kind of the general idea we were talking about as far as that goes. So I mean, it's just kind of I guess the 1-minute background story on what we've already talked about. And then here we are.
Great. I did have a chance to read the notes from the prior meeting. So.
Good. Great. So, Luke, are you live now? You good?
I am back. Yeah, sorry, I had to reconnect my wireless. It was dropping packets like they were going out of style, but I think it's solid now. What's up?
Well, do you want to lead that conversation on the why a little bit and talk about, from your perspective, or what you see from the group or what you see from us? And
yeah, Sure. Yeah, I think just even in that intro round that we just did earlier, it's fantastic to me that it sounds like from a belief, worldview, political standpoint, we have a lot of shared ideals as far as kind of a libertarian-leaning, voluntary type society being an equitable thing and being a good thing, and that's super encouraging to me. I think that'll go a long way, and it's it's kind of the core genesis of Bitcoin as well, so it makes sense. So I think from that, I think Sean asked a really good question of what level are we going to be political about it. I think that's a big discussion in the entire Bitcoin community right now. Some are abandoning kind of the normal way of doing things and moving to the dark wallet, saying forget regulation, forget all this, we need to dive right into bypassing the entire ecosystem that exists today and creating a brand new one, whereas others are trying to link arms with them, work together. And it's interesting within this group. I think we probably have a combination of that view from different angles. Sean King, I thought your open letter to on the bit license and stuff was phenomenal. I thought it was fantastic. I love your view of history as you laid it all out there. Jesse, I know you've got a lot of experience with local government and have been a little not excited about their success in serving people. And so I think it'd be interesting to kind of decide what level we want to take, and I think that's potentially could define our organization going forward. Are we going to directly be in opposition to the status quo of what's going on now, or are we going to be pragmatic enough to understand that it takes time for things to change, and we're going to be an agent of change, or are we going to just try to work as closely with the existing regime as possible and not rock any boats? I don't think we're in that third category. I'd like to think we're going to maybe be in the more pragmatic side where, hey, if there's some lobbying that needs to be done, we can connect with an organization like the Nashville Technology Council as an example, where we're at least letting them know what our interests are and what our member interests are. That's kind of my initial thought, but I also kind of lean a little towards the other side, the first category too, of like, hey, this current system clearly isn't working, and we have the technology to build a better one. So I'm personally pretty excited about that. But I don't want to put us out there immediately as being, there's that stereotype of Bitcoin is used for illegal things, and Bitcoin is part of that environment within the dark web and all that. So I don't necessarily I don't think merchant adoption and user adoption is going to be helped by taking a strong stance in that direction. So I think those are all important things. I don't necessarily have the answer to them. I do, Jesse, I do really like that phrase you put out there in that initial meeting, blockchain technologies for equitable society. I think that's fantastic. I would love to know what you guys think. In that spectrum of three, maybe that's a good place to start the discussion. Where do we feel this leadership and this organization is going to go?
I too, for what it's worth, like that tagline. I like it in particular because it focuses on blockchain technology and not Bitcoin as a quote currency end quote. I think the whole blockchain idea has far broader applicability, of course, than just internet money. So I love that, and then the free and open society or free and equitable society, however it was phrased, I think is perfect and certainly consistent with my sort of libertarian leanings. Regarding engaging with regulators, my position is that Bitcoin is, in the end, unregulatable. They're not going to be able to get ahead of the curve. Regulators, by definition, are a bureaucracy, and Bitcoin is going to be changing at rates approaching Moore's law, and they're always going to be steps and steps behind. So it's largely unregulatable. Having said that, they can do some things in the short term that in the long term will only hurt the individual states that are short-sighted, or countries for that matter that are short-sighted, but in the short term will make Bitcoin adoption more burdensome and more costly and more risky than it needs to be for the general public. And so my position is that regulators can't hurt us in the long run, and so there's no disadvantage to engaging. I think to the extent we engage, to the extent we can keep them from doing stupid things in the short term, we hasten the day that Bitcoin is commonly accepted and regularly used, not just as a currency, but in any number of other very useful ways. And to the extent they don't listen to us and choose to buck what is, I think, an inevitable trend, they hurt only themselves, and ultimately they will hasten innovation. And Bitcoin is a way of getting around the stupid rules that they're contemplating. So my thought is we engage, but we engage in a principled way, and certainly not in a accommodating way, not in a way that cedes ground or that embraces regulation, but in a way that hopefully keeps regulators from doing stupid things that ultimately will hurt them and, in the short term, us.
Yeah, I was going to, just as a paraphrase, that's exactly my thought process. We should educate the regulators and the politicians and the bankers and let them know this is the way that things are. They can either play ball and participate, or we'll eradicate their jobs. As free people of the United States of America, it's our right and our place to do that exact thing.
Okay.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just say, following up to that, I have absolutely zero interest whatsoever in catering to the system per se, but I have a keen interest in educating and relating to individuals and people. And there are certain people who do have a different level of or measure of influence through whatever means that may be. Some of those people do include state-level legislators and regulators and such. So that's been my approach to date. Is that I think it's fundamentally this comes down to a truly human innovation that can change lives, and I want to get as many people on board with that, understanding that as possible. And so that includes businesses all up and down the street, but that includes consumers, that includes investors, and that also includes potential regulators and legislators. And so that's my approach, and that's the perspective I come from.
Well, we can be apolitical and objective, simultaneously. There's clearly a bunch of issues with the way that the market operates now, and Bitcoin is a solution to a lot of those as a currency. So I think you can be apolitical, but then be objective about the fact that runaway currency inflation is probably not a good fiscal policy.
Probably.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it sounds like, Jesse, you may have defined the kind of the vision statement for the organization. I think we're all in agreement that that's a beautiful start.
Yeah. The only dispute I think at this point is whether to spell blockchain as one word or two words or put a hyphen in there. So,
I thought it was always one word, but
Satoshi Nakamoto spelled it as two words.
Oh no!
And blockchain.info branded themselves as blockchain with one word, and then everybody went crazy, and now
I'm sorry, it was a typo on my first paper. So.
Well said. I've always thought of it as two words. I have read the paper for sure, but it was a while ago. I missed that. Interesting.
Yeah. So for better or worse, I guess that's a grammar thing. I don't know who's the grammar expert as far as that goes, but at this point, I've kind of mentally differentiated blockchain, two words, as the invention, and blockchain, one word, as the brand. And that's kind of been the distinction I've used, but everyone kind of uses a different system at this point because there's no central authority to decide. But for what it's worth, Satoshi Nakamoto did use blockchain as two words.
Just put it in brackets.
Yeah.
Brackets.
Yeah.
Blockchain.
He hasn't been around to defend himself lately, so I don't know. Defend his decision. So that sounds good. It sounds like we have kind of a vision statement that we like. I would think I'm just throwing out there's a possible topic for the last 12 minutes we have here is just what the format of this meeting is going to look like, what the timing of this meeting. Jesse, I know you've got a job, so I don't know if this even works for you timing-wise. I think most of us are pretty flexible, though. So if we need to move this meeting around, I do like the idea of having an agenda prior to the meeting so we can understand what it is we want to accomplish. And then, obviously that's going to involve some emails going back and forth throughout the week or month or how often we're going to do this. What are your guys' thoughts? How often do you want to meet? Who do you want to put in charge? Maybe we rotate who's in charge of running the agenda each meeting. Do we want to vote on a time, or are we happy with this one? What are your guys' thoughts?
I'm personally very flexible, so I can pretty much accommodate any day or time. I just have to have a little bit of advance notice, so it doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, similarly, I'm pretty flexible. I just ask it to be consistent. And as far as frequency, I think that in the short-term future, it'd be ideal if we can start meeting every week. And then once we have things off the ground, we can, go down to twice a month or once a month. But in the short term, I think right now we have a long list of things to get done to make the Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance, come into existence. And it would be especially helpful if we could meet more frequently.
Cool.
Yeah, until January, I think that once a week is probably prudent because we do have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
My schedule, unfortunately, is erratic. I serve clients, and I often serve at their pleasure. So it would be hard for me to pick a time that I could definitely be there. But I will say, unless I'm traveling or something, lunchtime, between say 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern, somewhere in that range is usually a doable most days, unless I'm traveling or just have a client conflict. As far as the day of the week goes, another time that would usually be free for me unless I'm traveling would be like a Friday early afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock Friday afternoon, something like that. I usually try to get out of the office a little early, so I'd be free then. But don't build this around me. I will do my very best to accommodate whatever works for everybody else.
Okay. Jesse, what about you? Are you here?
So lunches I can make that work, but if we're going to be meeting a lot during the day, I might have to miss a couple. We'll see. I think I can make it work though.
Yeah, for me, this is a great time. Lunch Wednesday, or it's 11 for us here Central, but 11 or 11:30, that's a great time for me on Wednesday. But yeah, I'm like Sean, I'm quite flexible. So, like Sean.
Okay. Jesse, when you say lunch, what time do you mean?
Between 11 and 1.
Okay. So it sounds like 11 Central, which is 12 Eastern, might be the best time for now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, well, and if we're doing that, is there any objection to sticking with Wednesday for now until we need to change that, or is there? Any proposals of a different day?
No, I think Wednesday's fine. Let's go ahead and do a recurring calendar event and just drop that on the calendar, and we can adjust as needed.
Okay. Does that sound good to you, Jesse and Sean and Sean?
Yep.
That should work.
Good to me.
Yeah, I'll try to make that work.
Okay.
And can we, we need a place that all this stuff is that we're talking about is in. We need some sort of funnel for all this stuff to be in one place. I noticed that the Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance homepage is kind of up, and it's kind of got a landing page. Can I make the proposal? I don't know who owns the domain and is managing that server or whatever, but if we could get minutes from the last meetings, and I'd be glad to do any of this if we're doing WordPress or whatever. I could log in and set this up, but minutes, links to GitHub pages, links to whatever documents need to be public right now, and maybe a way that the members could of the board could post proposals for the next meetings or something, some way to kind of move the agenda forward, but do it publicly without us having to be in a meeting. That makes sense.
I think like the Google Drive would probably be a good place to start. Jesse, we missed you last night hanging out at Flight, but I think Sean had a really good point that like for example, the Monday night thing that was going on, there were 2 different times listed in 2 different social media sites. So we've got like Google stuff, Twitter stuff, Facebook stuff, now multiple Facebook things, and he made a good point that if we have the central location being the website, and then we integrate with all the other social media streams, when we create an event, I would even love to hook into the Meetup API and do it that way too, but when we create an event, we just hook into these different services that are out there, and everyone's on the same page, everyone has the same content, and it's organized. And I'd like the idea of even bringing that to the board level. I hadn't thought about that as well. There's no real reason, compelling reason I can think of to have a lot of our, have our stuff private. And so my thought there is, as we create agenda minutes and things like that in GitHub, you can just say this, or in
Google Drive.
Google Drive, you can just say this is a public document and just share it publicly, link to it on the site. I think that would be great. And so, Sean, I mean, I think you're the one holding on the keys as far as access to these systems right now. What's your thoughts on that?
Kind of, yeah. So here's what's going on. Alex Patton is working on a WordPress backend framework for us right now, and that's why we just had that temporary landing page up. We're actually going to have access to that here probably later this afternoon, and then we can distribute access from that, even though it will be moving over to the TennesseeBitcoin.org website by this weekend, probably before Saturday. So we're going to build in all that functionality as far as sharing it to the social media stuff. However, what I was going to suggest, yes, we need to use our Google Drive. We have that built into our Google Domain apps, and collaboration is real easy because we have our mind maps and everything else in there. What we don't want to do, at least in my opinion, is put all that stuff public on the TennesseeBitcoin.org website up front. But what we can do, and this is what I actually had this conversation with John a little while back, we can use the Google Sites, which is built into our Google Domain app, and we can build like projects, and basically it can still be public, but it would be like a working place, like a back room where we're posting all that stuff, and then we can have a link to it, someplace on the TennesseeBitcoin.org website. But it doesn't necessarily need to be an integral part of our website unless somebody goes looking for it and says, hey, this is where we can see all the machine. This is where we can see what's going on, and then we can have our calendars and all that stuff in there. And then once the work is done in those project rooms, however we end up managing that through the Google site, then we post that to the homepage and make it all pretty, and people can engage, on the casual level at the TennesseeBitcoin.org website. But if they really want to get involved, they just punch down through to get to the back end and join up there and start working on it.
Cool.
Make sense?
Yeah. I like that. Is that cool with you, Jesse? Does that make sense?
I think so. I saw a cat video, so I got distracted.
Nice.
Yeah, and Sean's already got a demo of that. He built a little Google site that would be really great for us to use for collaboration and stuff like that. So that way, if the media or some guy who heard about Bitcoin in the news finds TennesseeBitcoin.org, then he's not distracted by all the behind the scenes stuff and just sees our PR and can join. And then
iframe or something. I mean, it sounds like we're making yet again another platform with this Google site, which is, I mean, it's getting kind of frustrating. I think I've vocalized this before, but I've got 2 generated email addresses. There's a GitHub page. There's Evernote links. There's, I've got my website, which isn't related, but that's people go to the Facebook group to find information. It's like a really bad content funnel and contact funnel. So if we could just do like an iframe on the page that we have now, the Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance org page, to the Google site, could we do something like that so at least it's permanently, a place to go to?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was saying. Not necessarily an iframe, but you would go to TennesseeBitcoin.org.
Oh, like domain forwarding.
Yeah, I mean, we just put it in as a link or something in there, so that way it's going to be tied to it. I'm not exactly sure how that will look just yet until we get the rest of the framework done. But yeah, it's not going to be another place to go. It's just going to be, this is public. TennesseeBitcoin.org is public, and then from the public site you open a door and you walk into the back room where we're all working. So that way the casual browser of the TennesseeBitcoin.org website, or the the person looking for information, or updates or calendar events or whatever level of engagement they want, it will be there for them. And we're not overwhelming them with 14 pages of meeting notes and everything else that they really don't give a damn about.
Yeah.
And then if they do give a damn about it, then they just click on here, boom, there they go, and then they can actively engage with all the people that are on the action teams or the board of directors or whoever.
Yeah, and I think one of the main reasons why we have been kind of scattered to date, this is true. We've had a lot of stuff on a lot of different platforms. Is really because we haven't fully developed our home base. So as we develop TennesseeBitcoin.org, ideally I think we'd like to move most of what we do over to that, and then everything else is just PR. Like Facebook, Twitter, Google+. At that point, those just become PR avenues, and social media marketing such. And then the website itself will have our calendar events, we'll have our documents, we'll have all that kind of stuff. It's just we haven't had a developed home base until now, well, we still don't, but we should soon. So.
And then if you're going to make a membership required email address, we need to come up with some strict rules on how that mailing list will be used.
Yeah, that's a good agenda item for next week. We got 1 minute left, but let's plan on via email setting up an agenda for next week, and then we'll meet again, same bat channel. Does that work for everybody?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Who wants to run next meeting? Jesse, want to run it?
Sure.
Alrighty. Jesse will run next meeting. And that just means pinging us for agenda items and making sure, that's my thought.
I think one of the very first things we need to do at our next meeting is figure out we need board director positions. We need to figure out who exactly is who and what. We're not, so yeah. So we're not arbitrarily saying like all the kinds of stuff like who's leader of every meeting and stuff like that. I think we need to have.
Yeah, I mean let's talk about it next week.
Okay.
That'd be good. Awesome, guys. Well, I think we got a lot done in a short period of time. That's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Pleasure.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care. See you guys next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.